Yo, welcome to the Renewing the Mind podcast.
Here we go.
How's everyone doing? Good. Hopefully, in the comments they'll say good. Hey, Dad, I just texted you. Make sure I sent Mom to go grab your headphones.
Okay.
I think that was our feedback issue last time.
Okay, let me grab them quick.
All right, I'll entertain the chat until then. Let us know where you're watching from, who's here.
Okay. So they have a big fat cord on them.
Yep. Let's who's here. Whoa, my typing is horrendous. All right, we got Josh Ruby here. Hey, I think your mic is also your room mic. I don't think it's your actual one in front of you.
It's not.
It doesn't sound like it.
Got some issues today, huh?
Yeah. Well, we're all running late. Hello. Okay. All right. So we got. Let's hit to the comments. Josh Ruby's here. Let's go. Chalklon's here. Auntie Cal is here. Smiths are here. Oh, Mom said she switched it during her training. Is the blue light on? Is the blue light on your audio box? To the right, that blue thing? Your actual box on your desktop? Josh Ruby's mom's here. All right. You getting it? So if you hit cam mics, the little scroll wheel, then you're going to pick the Personas 2.
Yep. I did.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Yep. I didn't notice it until you wheeled your chair back and I heard the wheels roll. I'm like,
not the same.
We're not on the mic there.
All right, testing 1, 2, 3. So
there you go. There you
go.
Hey, this is reality. We're not experts. We're definitely not professionals. That is for sure. But
and Stacy's been doing a lot of training and webinars, so she changes everything.
Yeah, here you go.
So our settings aren't
confirmation. I switched it during my training. But let it be known in podcast world. Am I loud enough? This is weird hearing my headphones.
That way?
Yeah, the noise canceling. So I think this is the feedback issue we had because my speakers are picking up. Did a little bit of research. But Black Friday, we went and hit the bank. We got Dad a new camera because right now his doesn't do clean HDMI, which means his audio set, his autofocus settings have to be set. So if he moves back and forth, he won't stay in focus. Number 2, these mics are not ideal for what we want to have happen, and so we switched some things up. So we're but here's the thing: we jumped when we were using some crusted stuff, and we've been slowly upgrading. And that's what you need to do with some of your dreams and your passions.
Yes.
Just jump.
Just keep moving.
Let's do it. We got 15 people here. I just want to preface this by saying Milana is crying a little bit and a little bit fussy. So if I do need to take off and go help the wife, we're going to send it over to Dad full control of the show, and we'll see what happens from there.
I'll do a commercial for Matthews, our unofficial sponsor,
our soon to be sponsor one day, hopefully.
Yeah.
I some people didn't comment, but I see you're here in the comments. Cindy King's here, Dan Olson's here, Claudia Riviera's here, Alex Pick, my boy's here.
Let's go. Got people showing up.
Jesus Rug killing it in the back.
Yeah.
Carpet Jesus is the actual definition, but I do like Jesus Rug.
Yes. Yeah, this is a good show. Talking about complaints is it's just so important because, believe it or not, there actually is a time to complain, but you all got to stay a little later to hear that. Because
perfect.
Yeah.
All right. Well, let me kick it off.
Welcome
to the Renewing the Mind podcast. I'm your host, Tyler Sanchez. Joined with me, as always, my dad, Dr. Raul Sanchez. How you doing, Dad?
I'm feeling amazing. Like back in the day at NDSU, we had a saying: "Those will stay, will play. Those who play will be champions. Once a champion, always a champion. There she be right there, baby. Shout out to the University of Michigan, about to be Big Ten champions in a couple days.
And there's the ring
kiss. Blue.
And we believe that in the name of Jesus.
So
Michigan Wolverines for
y'all
life.
that don't know, I graduated from the University of Iowa with my PhD. So I've had a lot of people message me and ask me who I'm rooting for. And they're like, bro, you're killing me. And like, dude, if you don't wear Hawkeye gear, I'm blocking you, just all this kind of stuff. But here's the thing. Ever since I was a kid, I picked Michigan Wolverines because of the helmets. And I picked the Detroit Lions because they're the lion, like King of the Jungle. There he goes, baby.
It's my 1,000-piece puzzle I haven't put together yet, but I will be putting it together soon.
Yeah, he's still reading the directions. So my childhood team is Michigan, and Tyler's a Michigan fan. My brothers are Michigan fans. My nephews, my kids, and we just all kind of grew up like in Michigan. So I have to. I tell people it this way. It's like one team I kind of have to cheer for because I was born, raised here and went here. And the other team I chose. So I got to go with the team I chose. So it's go blue, baby.
I'm just saying I talked a lot of smack this year against the Hawkeyes. So if Iowa for some reason pulls a miracle off, I'm not going to church on Sunday. Count me out.
Let's look at it this way. When the University of Iowa was recruiting me to play football, my official game I chose to go to was when they played Michigan. And they had a running back named Jamie Morris who tore up Iowa, and he ended up playing for New York Giants. And dude, I was like, that dude is beast. And I was like, why can't Michigan recruit me?
That's happening. That's happening Saturday night, 8:00 at Lucas Oil Stadium.
Yeah. So y'all can look it up.
Haskins is running all over y'all. Anyways, today we're talking about when your answered prayers turn into your daily complaints. So what we're going to ask you to do is, if you'd be bold enough, courageous enough to maybe throw out some examples as we are talking about my personal examples. We're going to throw out some hypotheticals that maybe you've been a part of in your life. And so what we want you to do is say, hey, an answered prayer I had was this, and that turned into my daily complaint. So, and then we just want to, obviously it's not going to be anonymous. We're going to throw it up on the screen. There's power in confession. There's power in vulnerability. There's power in, hey, I struggle just like you struggle. And, that group type mentality that, man, this is something we all, I think, face.
Yeah.
All right. Yep. You want me to get into it?
So, I can do an example, or do you want to use yours first?
Yeah, I'll start.
Okay.
So for instance, baby Milana, 3 weeks old, going on 4 weeks today. And dude, just not sleeping well. She's having not necessarily colic, but having spurts of that just uncontrollable crying for an hour here and there. Only needs to be rocked and just, up every 2 hours at night, sometimes 3 hours in chunks. And so, there's just been moments where we just feels like our joy's kind of been stolen. And I've caught myself, kind of complaining from time to time. And about 2 weeks ago, so Milana was alive for about 2 weeks. I just felt kind of in my spirit, not like an audible voice, but kind of the Holy Spirit, when you feel like you heard God, and you just said, man, sometimes, or don't forget that this is what you prayed for. Just don't forget this is what you prayed for. So, rewind 10 months ago, we sat down as a couple and decided, hey, let's start trying to have a kid. Prayed for, that she would get pregnant, that we wouldn't have any infertility issues or struggles. Got pregnant, had then you start praying for a perfect and healthy pregnancy. That happened. You heard last podcast, prayed for a great birth. That happened. And then now it's like, anytime, hey, how's the baby doing? Not sleeping. I'm tired. I'm exhausted. It quickly turns into a bunch of complaints. And I think that not just in the baby situation, but I think in a lot of times in life, that's what we do. We forget that at some point in your life, maybe it's not as recent as 10 months ago, you prayed for that, right? And it got answered, and we thank God for it. And then now we're like, oh, it's a complaint. And, oh man, I'm up all night. And, oh man, I'm exhausted. And you don't know what it's like to have 3 kids. And it's like, dude, I prayed for that.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the number one thing I can share is this. In life, it's so easy to stay congruent with cause and effect that are immediate. You touch a hot stove, you got a blister. You smash your finger in a door, like you're in a splint. Like you get it. Like you walk out barefoot on your deck, you get a splinter. And then instantly you know exactly what you did and what the consequence of that was. And so we don't really complain. We just like change the behavior. So in the delayed consequence, like if you're praying for something 6 months later, or in this case, 9 months later, you know, a baby shows up, then it's very difficult to remember what the pieces were that you prayed for and in the mood 9 months ago that you were in when you prayed for it. And on a very simple note, like, you know, we bow hunt and it's been a terrible year. We haven't seen any shooters. Like we got these just not a good year. So I had an opportunity, took a doe, and I bring it up into the house, and I don't have any place to hide it, hang it. So I just put it on the ground. I'm putting some sand wedges underneath so I can kind of drain it. Call a buddy who's got literally a butchering garage. And he's like, yeah, you can come hang it on Tuesday. So I have to hang this thing or put it up. And I'm just mad because I can't have any place to hang it. Like Stacey's want me drilling holes all over the garage and trying to, it's just not good. So, I stub my toe. I pick up these big old sand bags, for my truck for the winter. And I lay those down, smash a toe, and then I pick one up to move it and realize it's leaking sand everywhere. And then so the sand gets on the doe's leg. And it's like, I just cleaned all the meat. And then here I'm just like so mad. Yeah. And it's just such a small thing. And then instantly in my head, I hear this in my head. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, that's my thing. And I'm trying not to say it out loud, but I hear it. And then as I jump up to the truck to kind of like push it out, get everything out of the way, drop some more sand down, I drop down. I'm like, all these months I've been praying that I can just have meat to fill the freezer. I was so thankful that I shot a doe. It doesn't matter. I'm not, big buck's cool, but I mean, it's meat. And so I just take a step back and I'm like, okay, why was it so important for me to have the deer meat? So I start thinking about all the recipes. And of course I circle back on bone broth and making pho with the deer. And so I start laughing.
PHO.
Yeah, PHO,
ramen soup. Yeah.
So I circle back on all that stuff, and I start laughing. And once I make myself laugh, then I'm like, okay, what are you crying about? It's not
even in the stand, we're texting each other, hey, hopefully the doe walks by, stick it, shoot it. Hopefully we, fill the freezer. Yes. And then a couple hours later, same thing. Yeah, your answered prayer now turned into a complaint.
And that's a small thing. Okay, so then on a bigger piece, so we've been praying.
Hold on, if you're in the comments or you're watching, throw in some of these examples that you maybe it's as simple as that, something you prayed for, then you complained about. It doesn't have to be life altering or changing. It could be something that simple.
Yeah.
Right, go ahead.
So on a bigger piece, we've been praying for like a Christian coach for me to scale my business so we can start putting, courses out. Tyler, you've been talking about, hey dad, you need to do courses. Like you need to leverage your skills and do courses and people can buy these.
I just want to say 2018, I hounded him for a long time.
Yes.
He gets a coach, says the same thing.
Yes.
You've been saying that about me for years. You're like, Tyler, I tell you to do that. Your coach tells you to do it. You do it.
Yes.
How the tables have turned. Okay, continue.
Correct. So I get this coach and he basically says, hey, you got to find someone who can scale your business. You got to find more of a marketing guru. So we start praying for a Christian. Basically we pray and pray and pray. And I narrowed down to 2 people, but I just hadn't had to go yet because they're expensive, like double what people pay me to charge, double that. And that's just for the front end. So it'll end up being maybe 5 times as much. It just depends. Here's my point. I'm praying and praying. Randomly, a person who we are in a prayer warrior group together randomly sends a text on a Tuesday night and says, I don't know why, but the Lord told me to send this to you. I hope it makes sense to you. The Father said you will get it. And this is literally like Tuesday night, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock, whatever it was. And it's like an hour-long podcast. And I'm just like, no, here's my head complaining. Like, no, I'm not doing this tonight. Like, I don't have the time. Like, and then I read it again. I go brush my teeth. I show it to Stacy. She was like, well, what do you think? I'm sitting there and I'm thinking, what if there's my answer? So you just have to get out of your complaining mindset. So literally in bed, I stay up an hour late and I'm listening to this podcast. And I'm not kidding. It's an hour and 10 minutes. The very last 10 minutes, the whole thing shifts from it wasn't about coaching. It was just about a bunch of things. And then the very end, she says, tell me why you hire a coach. And he was like, very simple. It's to cover your blind spots. And then he starts going into people he's worked with, and he mentions the guy that I'm thinking about hiring. And I literally started crying. I was just like, that's it. Like this last 10 minutes of an hour and 10 minutes, the Lord gives me an answer through somebody who had no idea what I was praying for. And then it's just nuts. So, okay. So we hired this coach. I head to Miami, and I'm not kidding you. When I popped out of the Uber, like instant sweat, like just like everything just like cellophane sticks to your chest. And I'm like trying to get into the hotel as fast as I can. And then the doors open and I'm like, oh no, man, your air's broke. The air's not broke, but there's so many doors coming in, and it's just like instantly like 92 degrees. And it was like 78, but 92 degree, 92% humidity. And I start complaining. I go up to the room, turn that air sucker, turn it down to like 66. And I'm sitting there and take off all my pants. I turn my shorts on. I'm like, I don't even want to go out to eat. It's so hot. And I'm sitting here complaining about the heat. It's so dumb.
And a couple months ago, that's the place you wanted to be in.
Yeah. It's just like, I can't wait to go to this mastermind. I'm gonna learn so much. And it's so interesting how fast things can wreck you. And so you have to be able to take just a step back, a deep breath, a realization that like, I prayed for this. Like, wait a minute, where's my opportunity? And for me in that moment, I didn't catch it mentally. Like with the deer, I caught it mentally. This I didn't catch mentally. I sit there, I'm like, okay, what am I gonna do for lunch? And I just look up top restaurants, and all of a sudden I start looking at my screen, and I go out on the deck and look outside, and then it hit me. I was like, dude, I'm in Miami. Like, I shouldn't complain about food. So it's like there was a Chipotle and stuff like that. I'm like, no, I want to go to this mom and pop shop that looks like a dive, Right. So I find a sushi place, and I'm like, hopefully these people don't even speak English. Like, that's where I want to eat, And so it took me a physical act in that one to look up restaurants on my phone and start mapping how far do I going to Uber this? I'm going to walk. And I literally found a restaurant diagonal across the restaurant. So I walked through the hotel, went off the back southeast side, crossed the street. I'm at this restaurant, and everything is different. I started sending pictures of sushi.
Yeah. Making us jealous.
Yeah. Right. And this is the idea. So like how people ask me this all the time, how can you see it if you can't see it? And I totally get that, because you're blind in the moment. Right. So just like the reason why I want to coach is I want to coach to be able to help me with my blind spots. I help Stacy with her blind spots. She helps me with my blind spots. Right. And that's the whole concept. So you have to kind of get out of yourself, get over yourself. So, I put on shorts, and I put on, tennis shoes or my little, sandals. And I was like, okay, I can cool off this way instead of why am I got jeans and a shirt on, And so if I get out of myself, like stop complaining, it's just, you just sweat, like, and then all of a sudden it's looking at the food. So here's my point to you. The number one thing I want you to think about is how can you renew your perspective? And what that looks like is a new awareness. Like, wait, why am I upset? Wait, why am I crying? Wait, why am I upset about that? Right. And then here's the full circle piece. We get back, and Stacey and I are talking because there's another mastermind coming up in January. And then all of a sudden she's like, well, you can't be traveling all this time. And she's like, it's gonna cost all this money. And just like, so now we have this new problem. Right. So like I finally find the coach. We feel like the Lord led us to the right person. And now we're complaining about time and money and flights and just all that stuff again. It's a whole new problem. But what people always say, in order to make money, you got to spend money. And in order to like renew my perspective outside of where I'm at, what I know, I got to go to a coach in Miami. That's just how it goes. So you have to take these pieces in stride, because otherwise you get overwhelmed by the complaints. Okay. And your number one awareness step, or number one renew your perspective step, is awareness. So renew, move, find, right? The very first piece I want you to do is you got to renew your awareness, renew your perspective by saying, wait, what? Why am I complaining? Right? What's the real issue here? And that just helps you get out of yourself. Does that make sense? Hey, you went muted.
Yeah, sorry. Oh, I was jotting down some notes, so my keyboard was clicking. Okay. Yeah, that does make sense. Yeah. I think a spouse is a great person to bounce ideas off of, and to make sure when you forget, your wife will remind you, and when your wife forgets, you remind you. If you don't have a spouse, an accountability partner, a prayer partner, someone in your life, that a best friend. Bridget threw out one. I prayed for a hardworking, goal-setting husband. God provided, and now I complain because he works all the time. That's a good one.
Yeah,
that's
for sure. For sure. And your goal there, Bridget, is to help him figure out what that looks like when he gets home. What is good for a hardworking, goal-setting husband when he gets home? And in that's remind me, I'm gonna touch back on that at the end, because there's an assignment at the end, and that's exactly what we're talking about there. The hint would be intentionality.
Yeah, because it's not like you can only have a hardworking, goal-setting husband that works all the time and not invested. You can have both. And obviously AC's, that's his heart and passion as well.
Correct. Great.
Which that reminded me of another one. I always said, if I have daughters, I don't want pushover, quiet, tame, meek-hearted daughters. I want them to be kind of crazy, wild, aggressive, especially in a world where, daughters kind of get pushed down, and, people come to me all the time and like, they're so saddened that I have daughters. And then like, obviously I want a son, but if that doesn't happen, I'm not like going to go through life as like, oh, I failed. And then sometimes I'm so mad because they're stubborn, they are, a little aggressive and a little wild. It's like, well, that's what I prayed for,
Yeah.
That's a quick one too.
Yeah, correct. And we've talked about that a lot too, is not to have pushovers, to have girls who can stand up for themselves, and girls who are opinionated, girls who aren't going to be easily squashed, and then they do ninja kicks and all kinds of karate moves and karate jump you on the couch. And you're like, oh, what are you doing?
Couple ones I thought of just for examples, because no one else is putting them in the chat or the comments. So I jotted down, which it kind of follows up with Bridget's, is promotions. Sometimes we talk about promotions, or we talk about, oh man, I wish I could make some more money on the side. And then when some of that stuff happens, we're complaining because we're like, oh man, I got to work, my 9 to 5. And then I also have to work when I put the kids to bed. This podcast sometimes feels like, man, this is what we prayed for, to be able to go live, to be able to do this. And sometimes I find myself like, oh man, it'd be nice to just sit on the couch. But I think that's one for me too, especially with, doing LXI on the side with my video editing.
Yeah.
Like, man, it'd be nice if I could get a job for, $1,500, $2,000. I get a video job, and then I'm like, dude, I have to edit. I'm like, dude, that's literally what I prayed for a month ago. So
yeah. And for that language, the easy mindset hack, really, or the renew your perspective, is I have to versus I get to. And so on those lines, we prayed with Tavian for literally at least 12 months, prayed about college visits and all that kind of stuff. And the Lord completely turned us to Creighton, which it was literally like, hey, let's just go visit there just because they have a good neuroscience program. Tave didn't want to stay this close. And so the Lord, full circle, we end up going there. All these amazing things happens. He gets the biggest scholarship they can offer. And then we get our first tuition bill, and we're like, why the freak isn't he going to like a public school?
Right.
He could have had a free ride at several public schools. Yep. And then in the middle of that going through my head, I think, wait, sorry, Lord, like, thank you for directing him there,
Yeah.
And then he helps too, because once he gets us a text and he's like, hey, thanks for, being obedient to the Lord. Like, this is literally perfect place for me. And then so I have to screenshot that and put it on my background or something. And I start complaining every time I see the tuition check. And then I go, oh yeah, thank you, Lord. Oh yeah, thank you, Lord. Like, it's hard. It's work. But this goes back to our podcast on the gratitude work, because it's intentionality on the gratitude work. You have to intentionally remind yourself of what you prayed for, and why sending a tuition check is a privilege, is a blessing, right? Is an anointing.
Yep. Another one that is not as crazy, but it's definitely something I've faced is, I've always wanted a truck, and I got a busted truck, but it's still a truck that I love. And I got a flat tire. So I was looking up, cost of tires, and truck tires are not cheap. And so I'm like, dude, this is so stupid. At the same time, my whole life I prayed for a truck. God provided a truck for $500.
Yeah.
It's good enough to throw a dead deer in there. And now I'm like, dude, this is so stupid. Trucks are dumb. New tires are stupid.
Yeah.
At some point, that was like, remember I took pictures of it. I would just drive it around. I felt like I was 16 again.
Yes.
I was like trying to remember, man, thank God for, that's one of the things I jotted down, what you just said, is remember what God has done.
Yeah, absolutely.
Remember what he has done. And, God provided a truck. That's a miracle for me, for our financial status and what we're doing.
Yeah.
It was a blessing. God provided a kid for me. That's not many people, especially today's world with social media and people really kind of rallying behind people that struggle with infertility. I mean, it's not a day goes by where I don't see someone that I know from high school or college that's struggling to have kids.
Yeah.
I was like, thank God, you know, I don't ever want to complain again. Obviously you'll hear me say like, yeah, I'm tired, or I need a quad shot today from Starbucks, but I never want to. Yeah.
I get a double.
No, today,
A quad shot.
Dude, that chestnut praline, that holiday drink.
Oh yeah.
Hey, put some oat milk in that, babe. Oh man.
Yeah.
Anyways, so it's not like I'm not gonna ever say like, oh, I'm tired. I just don't ever want it to be my daily complaints. Like that, like you talked about, that mindset of just like, oh, woe is me. I'm so, you know.
And if you don't remember like to flip it, then you have the contrast. And the contrast is that day you don't get to drive your truck. The day you took the Toyota, your trunk is weighted down like
dude,
this is the tail of your truck.
I thought hunting out of my Ford Taurus was bad. That little Camry, dude.
Yeah, and you open the trunk, and it's literally everything's wedged in there like sardines.
Smash.
And you pull out a deer from there, and you pull out your decoy, and you pull out all your equipment. And I'm just dying laughing.
I forgot I think I told you this. I forgot my decoy was in there. I went to do Walmart pickup, and I popped my trunk, and the dude's like, there's no room. And I'm like, what? And I went back. There's just a deer decoy sitting there.
Yeah.
Couple comments. As you said, marriage. So in our marriage conference that we do, I always start off, I open the marriage conference, and I have the couples look into each other's eyes, and I just walk them through this idea that at some point you called your parents and you said, dude, I found my knight in shining armor. And the husband called and said, dude, I found my, you know, you call mom your Georgia peach, or, you know, your baby or your boo-boo. And then how quickly we forget that, man, God answered a prayer with your spouse. That's a good one.
Yeah.
Another one. I pray for God to send me people that have needs that I can support. Example, being a doula, MOPS group, and title teacher at my kid's school. Then I'm overwhelmed when God sends them.
Yes, correct.
I know you, like, not to get in details, but I know that's one you struggle with, Dad, that you've always felt like the passion to help guys and help men, you know, basically step into their living legacy for their family. But at the same time, dudes are stubborn. And I think that's some of your biggest frustrations, is helping people. You know, that's your prayer, but then it's also some of your biggest struggles.
Yeah. Okay. So let's go there. So when we were down in Miami at this mastermind, people, you know, you basically have like a 2-minute, they call it an elevator speech. It's like you have 2 minutes in the elevator to say, hey, hi, here's who I am and here's what I do. And I mentioned the living legacy thing. And my approach with living legacy is teaching men to drop their legacy now while they're alive, and not leave a legacy when they're dead and nobody knows what they meant. I said, my problem is men are stubborn and they don't like to come to the office. So I backdoor men by working with their wives, and then the wives teach the husbands. And a couple of people came up to me and he's like, hey, you can't use that word backdoor. It means a lot of things down here. And I was like, huh? Like, okay.
Yeah, I thought the same thing.
so that was the number one comment. A couple of dudes came to me and said, and I was like, I don't want to have a conversation. Next topic.
Change.
And then he goes, but you could say like you side hustle, you know, to get to the men or something. They were just trying to help me with but just the way it came out. But the honest truth is, a lot of women will come talk to me because they want it so bad for their husbands. Like, hey, I know you can teach my husband. Hey, I know my husband respects you. Hey, I know my husband will, but then they just don't show up. And so that's a big burden for me too. It's like, Lord, how am I supposed to help people when they're so stupid and stubborn? Lord, how am I supposed to? And I get really mad about that. And this is a good thing. You can take your complaints to God. Okay. You can take your complaints to God because it's a prayer request. Like, Lord, and it comes out sideways. So, you know, if you don't think so, reread Jesus as he's crying, Lord, take this cup from me. You know, he's shedding tears of blood. Like, tell me he's not warring with his mission in life. And so we can do that too. So I'm not saying you can never be negative. I'm saying complaining about the blessing. And so in that midst, yes, you're going to do it. And yes, you're human. And yes, it's going to happen. But when you do it with an intentionality of like, Lord, show me what I can do to make this thing work. And here's two things that I had to do for my mission. You know, speaking of Bridget carrying the load, or you, Tyler, or me, or anyone else listening, here's what I had to do. The first thing is I had to realize I'm not carrying them. It's not like I put them on my back like a fireman carry and I carry them, because that's how I used to feel. And I was like, man, I can't carry anyone else, because that really crushed me to have a guy say, yes, I'm going to make this step. And then they come back and like, wait, I forgot. I was supposed to do what? And I'm like, dude, I care more about your life and your kids and your wife than you do. So I asked God to do it. And literally that you did a sermon on it called Walk With Me. But that's what the Lord showed me. He's like, hey, I don't carry you. I walk with you. I was like, dude, that's so dope. So now I walk with him. So I look at it this way. I see I'm walking with a guy. And if he stops to tie his shoe, I stop. He stops to get a quad shot, I'll stop and get a Red Bull. Like,
well, and another thing, you got to think also too, back to how stubborn you were those first 4, 5, 6, 10, 12, 20 years.
What? Shoot. I wasn't stubborn. I didn't complain. I just punched holes in the walls. Oh, what? Huh? What?
Crystal,
is there an echo in here?
I prayed for big things professionally, and then when they came through, I found myself backpedaling because I don't feel qualified.
Yeah,
I feel that one.
Exactly.
I prayed for God to open some doors for the video stuff, and then I get called to do video stuff, and I'm like, I don't know how to do this. What am I doing? What if I don't know? What if It's like, no, man, walk through that with boldness.
Yeah, correct.
That's a good one. Another one too. Prayed for my business to grow. Now I find myself complaining of how busy I am. Love listening to you both tonight. You are helping me change the way I'm thinking. Instead of complaining, I need to be thankful and keep moving forward.
Yeah.
I talked to it happened just in church. You get a lot of small talk like that, Sunday morning stuff. And I always try to not correct that, but like when I talk to a business person, they're like, oh, just swamped. And I'm like, well, isn't that where you're supposed to be? I always just try to like sideways, just a nice little like, well, isn't that a good thing? Like, let's remember, like, isn't that the goal? Like,
yeah,
if you came in today and you're like, yeah, I, have no appointments for the next, that would be, that's a prayer request, right? I mean, people are writing that, bring me business.
Yes.
So yeah, that little just quick, this is how it's supposed to be. This is a great thing to struggle with.
Yeah, absolutely. So let's talk about like what the complaint pieces are. Okay. So just specifically behaviorally speaking, so let's talk about complaints. So number one, complaint's a waste of time, right? Because you're just venting, you're just having a gripe session, you're just spitting negativity, and it doesn't do any good for you, right? Number two, it attracts misery. So think about this. If you're, again, this church lobby, you're having a conversation, or parking lot of a football game, and you kind of walk by and you hear people being negative, you either avoid it like the plague, or you go, oh yeah, another thing, I have to share this. And then you share a complaint story. And so it attracts people who have the complaining spirit. The third one is the more you do it, like here's a neurological saying, activities that fire together, wire together. So the more I'm with, let's say, Tyler, and the more I complain, the more every time I see Tyler, my brain cue is to complain. And so you tend to complain with the same people over and over and over. So you get addicted to complaining in certain groups, right? So that misery loves company thing. Okay. Yeah. The last thing is it bleeds out. So once I start complaining about my wife, then I start complaining about my kids, then I start complaining about my job, then I start complaining about my health, then it just bleeds into everywhere. And so then you just become a physically complainer. Not that you complained about your job, but now you're just a complainer. Like, oh, Tyler, that dude, man, he's a complainer.
Yep.
So there's literally nothing behaviorally appropriate about complaining. Nothing.
Yeah.
Okay. Now let's talk neurologically. So number one, neurologically, it is a cortisol dump. Cortisol is the chemical of fight or flight that drops into the gut. It literally shuts down all channels of organs, all channels of like processing, thinking, building, regurgitating, digestion. It all shuts down. And the only thing that gets blood is the amygdala, which is fight or flight. So you're literally prepared to like put the hands up and let's see how fast my hands work, or flight. I'm going to run. That's all you're ready to do. It puts you in that mode to defend or escape. And then your brain's kind of looking like this. And that's why you walk up and touch somebody like, what? Oh, dude. Okay. Then so you're just on edge. Like, it doesn't do anything healthy for you. Okay. So now it decreases blood flow to the areas of problem solving, which is the left prefrontal cortex, which is the front of thinking, which means when I think of the next thing and the next thing and the next thing. So if I can think of like, hey, we need paper plates for this party. And once you think that, boom, another thing, because you're in that thinking mindset, that area of the brain is shut off when you complain. The last thing neurologically is you have zero ways to spark, or what we call like the brainstorm or mastermind, when your brain is in this clicking mode of creativity of what if. The second you complain, it shuts off all areas of the brain that problem solve. So there's no way you're going to see yourself out of it. if you're just complaining to get people to like give me attention. Okay. So it rewires the way your brain floods and flows blood flow to problem solving versus escape. Right now, just so you know really quickly, gratitude has the exact opposite effect. All the blood stops kind of just like moving toward the areas of fight and flight. And there's this relaxation. That's why we all like to brainstorm so much, because we talk about success. Hey, what worked, what worked. If you ever go to a mastermind and they talk about complaints and problems, it's a bad one. You usually start about, hey, what works? What's worked in the past? What have you done personally? How have you ran your business, Tyler? How have you ran this? What's it successful? And everything on the board is success, wins. And then boom, heads just starts to pop fast. And when you're around people like that, it's just amazing.
Well, that's why like creativity breeds creativity.
Yes.
That's why like places like Google and Apple, they have like open workspaces, and they have, their conference rooms around ping pong tables, and it like just fires up. It's funny when you talk about the front, you stop thinking. Like anytime anyone has like a anger burst or outrage, or kids rage over video games and break controllers, the first thing anyone says to them is like, dude, what were you thinking? Right? And like the answer is like, I don't know. I wasn't. I don't know. It's not like, you're like, dude, clearly you weren't thinking when that happened.
Yeah, literally, it's like if you and I are, when we're glitching, your face is there, but your mouth moves and your head bobs, and then like literally 15 seconds goes by, and I'm like, dude, I didn't follow a thing you said.
That's like Billy Madison. I see your lips moving, but I don't hear you.
Yeah, there's literally no data. Like it's just gone. Right.
All right, so I think we hit a couple examples. I think we talked about a bunch about that. You went to the neurological side of that. I'm going to go to the biblical side of that.
Yeah.
So a couple things. A couple months ago, we had a guest speaker who came in, and Glenn Reynolds, his son committed suicide. And he's a pastor and a lawyer, and he preached. And there's a video I posted of him talking about what it means to lament. So if you have a chance, go back and watch this guy express how to lament over the death of his son. So the definition of lament is a passionate expression of grief or sorrow. Another definition is just crying out in grief, wailing, complaining. And I don't know if people know that or not, but there's a book in the Bible called Lamentations, which is an Old Testament book on the expression of regret, sorrow, sadness, grief, pain, hurt. And it's biblical to lament. It's biblical to have a moment of expressing how God feels. I was talking to someone, or how you feel to God. I was talking to someone last week, and I said, do you ever feel they're in a really bad place? And I said to them, do you ever feel like not praying? And they're like, well, yeah, but I try not to say that. I'm like, well, why not? Why not say that? Why not say, dude, today I don't feel like praying? Like, have you ever expressed that out loud? It seems stupid to hold in our thoughts when God knows your every thought.
Yeah.
So there's moments in your life where it's biblically okay to go, God, I don't feel you right now. God, I don't see you working right now. God, how could this possibly be? It's okay in the midst of 3 a.m. when Milana's crying for an hour and 45 minutes for me to express, God, how is this part of your plan? Like, God, why can't you just intervene and stop her from crying? God, why can't you just let her sleep through the night so I could be fully rested? Like, it's okay to express those things. You just can't stay there.
Yeah.
The end statement is, no matter what, I still trust you, though. Right? Yep. Lament, cry, complain, sorrow, wail, deep expression of regret, grief, and sorrow. But at the end of the day, you end with saying, in the midst of all that, God, my trust is still in you. And I think that's what we're talking about when you're talking about expressing all of that and then moving on.
Yeah. Right. And so here's the main difference is, if you just look at a behavioral complaint, like I'm going to complain to Tyler about Stacy, that's sparked up out of a root of bitterness. I'm bitter because things didn't go my way. I'm bitter because Stacy didn't choose my choice, or Stacy didn't, consult me before she did something. There's this selfishness and bitterness, and that's where the complaints bred out of. Okay, now if we go to God, there's a difference. It's not necessarily selfishness and bitterness. There's a like, hey, I missed your sign. I think I missed something. Lord, show me where your hand is so I know you didn't give me this pain. And there's a confusion in there. And the lament is because of the pain. God can handle the pain. You're supposed to bring the pain to him, right? Dump your pain and your sorrows on him, but you can't stay there. And some people even say, I may have committed the like unforgivable sin. I was yelling and I even threw some cuss words at God. And I was like, I don't think that's it. That's not the unpardonable sin. And I think God knows, like if we talk about this a lot because it's so important to me, but if Isaiah, after slaying 100 kings, can go sit under, or I'm sorry, Elijah can go slay 100 kings and go sit under a tree and say, take my life now. I don't deserve to live. Like the dude is suicidal and starving himself, right? God cares so much. He sent him an angel and gave him bread, like strengthened his lips. Like, come on. So yeah, you can cry, you can complain, you can have, complaints with God about, hey, this isn't how it looked. Hey, you didn't give me the tools. Hey, I don't feel qualified. Lord, maybe my prayer was too big. Also you go to the buffet, Lord, and you serve 2 plates. Maybe I shouldn't have taken 2 bowls. Like, I think God has a sense of humor. I think he's like, bro, you got a big appetite. I think you'll figure it out. And I think as Christians, we need to be more open about that. I think, the cliche walking through church, or if I see you at, Dairy Queen or something, I'm like, hey man, what's up? And you're like, oh, I'm good. How are you doing? Oh, we're good. And then a little bit later, you're like, oh, I should have asked him how, his work's going, or how's, like, we all miss that moment. And I think it's better to be vulnerable and be like, hey, things have been better. Like, hey, can I pray for you? Hey, you need something? Hey, can I help?
Yep.
Right. And that's where, like, if you're not in a prayer group, get in a prayer group. It doesn't matter who's in the prayer group. Just start to develop relationships and sending texts back and forth and praying. This is just a kind of a side I just thought of. So in that prayer group, the person sent me the podcast. There's a person that was having some health issues and texted some pretty serious stuff in the prayer group about like, hey, pray for this. I kind of have a bad diagnosis. I need to go to the ER and they're going to do more tests. And then I have to see a specialist. And so Stacey and I, we have a fasting plan that we do. And so it's just an ongoing plan. And so we fasted on our normal stuff and then fasted a meal separately just for that one thing and prayed through it and actually believed that the diagnosis would change. And then I don't remember how many days later it was or whatever, but we got a text and said, hey, good news. My diagnosis was downgraded. And, right away, you're just like, let's go. And you just look back and forth and you just say, Lord, thank you. See, we're not scared of sharing that stuff, right? We're not scared about that because it's like, dude, the Lord came through. Like, it's dope. But we're really shy about like, man, I prayed for that job and I didn't get it because we feel like somehow I failed. But listen very carefully because this is for a lot of you. My daughter wants a brand new bike and she wants this like $2,000 bike because I have a nice bike that I ride Ragbri and stuff like that. And we're just not going to spend the money on it. She doesn't bike that often. She bikes in Sergeant Bluff where we live. And
I was about to say
a few blocks here and there. Like, no,
you bought her that, boy.
No.
What?
No. So, okay. So she has Terrence's, she has Tavian's bike hand me down, and it is a boy's bike. But she loved it when she was younger. And she's like, but I want a bike. And she wants these green bikes and these purple bikes. And so I literally just prayed. I was like, Lord, if you really want to give her a new bike, show me one that's reasonable. Cause like, she's going to be driving in a couple of years, she's 12 and I'm not about to go drop that money. And it just wasn't, I just didn't think it was right. I felt in my spirit, like there's a no there. So I literally just prayed. One day I come home, my wife's bike, which is green, a mountain bike and a girl's, and it's brand new, even though it's maybe 10 years old. It probably has a total of 4 hours ridden.
Maybe.
And just so you know, I bought the bike for my wife because I wanted her bike with me. So it's not her fault. I tried to push her into my lane and it didn't work very well. Right. See, I told y'all, I told y'all I need a coach.
You've tried that multiple times.
I told y'all I need a coach, right? I'm like, hey, this is a great bike for you. Hey, that fits. Hey, we save a couple $100,
A bow.
Anyways, so I come home and that bike's out and I was like, hey, honey, did you want a bike ride? And she's like, no. She's like, Valencia wrote it. It fits her. She loves it. So I go up to her and I was like, hey, honey. And she was like, Daddy, I got a new bike. And she jumps up and hugs me. And I was like, let's go. You got a new bike, you know? And there's just funny things about how sometimes you want something and the Lord tells you no. And you're going to feel broken. You're going to feel distraught. You're going to feel like, and I hear this a lot of people, my faith just isn't strong enough. Maybe I should have stronger faith. Like maybe I'm just not cut out to be a prayer warrior. A lot of people, believe it or not, have a goal to be an intercessor. Like I want to pray for people and I want to see things happen. And here's what I honestly think. I don't think I intercess for people to have things happen for them. I literally see it weird. I see it. I intercess because the Lord shows me things. I get to have a hand in. It'd be like if I donate, $2 to $1 million campaign. I don't do a lot. I just pray. So I know I'm just like one guy who drops a couple pieces of change in a bucket, and that bucket like changes lives because it builds a hospital. I'm not responsible for the bucket. I don't even give the most amount of money to the bucket. I'm just a contributor. And the more that I realize that I contribute to, the more lessons I learn. And so in that situation, I could easily see, no, the bike's not for you, honey. And she got discouraged and she was upset. And then she put it like on a list and a prayer thing. And then how it happens is like, I didn't know that bike. I didn't think about it. But in this biblical sense, the Lord tells us no because he has a better plan for you. And I can say better because it's better. The things that I wish I would have done and the coaches that I wanted to hire and I didn't, just watching them over the couple of years, I'm like, it would have been a waste. We wouldn't have clicked. We have different mindsets. Like I can see that now. And to wait for a Christian, multimillionaire who sees it from both sides, I'm like, it's unreal. It's just literally unreal. Yeah. So I can see all the no's lined up to this one yes. And for Valencia, like that little no of the bike, this yes shows up, right? I want you to take that little kid mindset of what if the Lord's telling me no? What have I done wrong? That's not it. What if the Lord's telling me no? Okay, where's the hand of God and where is he showing up next? You still have to look with that great expectation because those are the people who get the things. And I know it's weird, but the Bible says your faith has made you well. Peter, when he and Paul, when they looked at people, it said he looked at him and had compassion on him. And then Peter Peter was aware that his faith could heal him. His faith would make him well, or he had enough faith to be healed. That's all weird to me. I get it. That's weird. I'm not trying to say I have a handle on it, but I just know with your positive expectation of like, where's the hand of God? Show me, Lord. I know you're going to show up, show it to me. It's there. You just got to see it. That's where your awareness needs to be renewed.
Yeah. Always holding on that God has a plan and is in control.
Right.
Bridget said, yes, I thank God all the time for the things I prayed for that he did not give me.
Yeah, exactly. Because
I heard it say this way one time, there's no unanswered prayers. They're answered, but just not in the way you want them to be. Dude, so it's not that not that he didn't answer that prayer. He answered it in the opposite way what you thought. Yeah, so it's an answered prayer. Correct. It's just it's the answer you didn't want.
Correct.
All right, let's close this out. We're close to an hour. 2 Chronicles. Let me just put it in I'll put it in the chat here. I'll throw it up on the screen. There we go. 2 Chronicles 20:12 says, "Our God, will you not judge them?" Questioning, lamenting. I'm sure that one question can be, "Will you not fill in the blank? Will you not? How come you haven't? For we have no power to face this vast army that is attacking us," meaning I'm feeling hopeless. So sometimes in scripture, what you need to do is understand that you might not have a vast army attacking you, but you have to understand the hopelessness there, right? So our God, will you not fill in the blank in your life? Will you not heal me? Will you not provide? Will you not show up? Will you not bring her home? Will you not allow them to go to church? Will you not touch my husband? Will you not, all that? For we have no power to face this vast army that is attacking us. I feel hopeless in the midst of my daughter crying, work too much, financial struggles, all that stuff. And the last line is where you have to end, though. It says, we do not know what to do, but our eyes are on you. Right.
Yeah, right.
So God, will you not have come? You haven't. Where are you? I feel hopeless. I feel, it's out of my control. I don't know what to do. But at the end of the day, my eyes are on you. I'm focused on what you have in store for me. And maybe that's an answered prayer in the way I didn't want it to. Maybe that's a no right now. Maybe that's a wait. Maybe that's I got a better plan and it's not next week. It might be 2 years from now. But that's the key is our eyes are always on God, that perspective change.
Yeah, that's great.
That's my Ches nugget of the day.
The Ches nugget.
You got a final thoughts?
Yeah. So the final thought, the word is intentionality. I'd say to circle back to that. So let's go back to that. 40% of your happiness is found in intentionality. 40% of your happiness is found inside intentionality. So if you're going to be happy, you have to be more intentional with all your activities. So like, okay, you're complaining. The first thing is to have awareness and back up. Like we said, back up, pan back from your life and look at it from a bigger perspective. And that should help you to slow down your thoughts, slow down kind of where you're stuck. And then at that point, I want you to be asking yourself a question. What?
Did I go away?
Yeah. You just put me spotlight. I was like, oh, okay. I took the stage, bro.
My internet just stopped. Okay.
Oh,
right, sorry. Go ahead.
It just made me go. It just powered me up.
Okay.
So number one, so 40% of your happiness is in intentionality. So then your first step is to pan back, have awareness and be like, okay, where can I be intentional? And here's your intentionality. Ask yourself the question, if I had all the power in the world to solve this problem, what could I do? So that's your first awareness piece. Okay. And then there's a couple of steps. So 3 things. Number one, we want to have gratitude. So all you already know, right? This bracelet, what's awesome about that? This little what moment. Where's the button? What? Oh. Oh, my dude is sleeping.
I was reading comments.
You called me, teacher? Oh, me? Okay. Okay, so the gratitude, that's the what moment, right? What's awesome about this opportunity? What's awesome about this failure? What's awesome about this complaint is now I have better eyes to look at it this way. Okay. Number 2, you have to have the optimistic approach that in the middle of everything, if you can find one gold nugget or one win, everybody likes to say, what's your one takeaway, right? Or what's your one Ches nugget? We laugh about that for Tyler. What's your one thing that you can take away from this complaint? What's your one win to take away from this thing where I didn't get my prayer answered? And we can generically say, well, the Lord's got a better plan for me. Correct. Where? Right? See, not just generic now, it's intentional. Where? And then you would say, well, I mean, I've been praying for this one thing a long time. Maybe he's working on that. Okay, boom. Maybe the Lord is still having you grow and grow deeper in the roots, this thing you've been praying for, not this quick win, but this delayed win. Okay. So we got gratitude. We got to intentionally look for the one nugget. And then the last piece is new adventures. What's something new you can do so you're not stuck in this complaint? And that could be a brand new activity. That could be a brand new hobby. That could be going to a new group, finding a new friend, any new adventure. And that's where, I mean, y'all who know me, I'm big on new, because I know it keeps my brain young and it keeps the sprouting of the neurons, all those wins. Okay. So 40% is found in this system because you're intentionally renewing your awareness. That's number 1, right? Gratitude. That's number 2. And the last one is you're intentionally going to find one win or make it a new activity. Those are your top 3, right? And you'll be 40% more happier just by that process right there.
Love it. Just going to scroll the comments, make sure. Okay. Sweet.
That's everybody?
Said, yep. Moved to Colorado.
Believe me, that's on the list. Pray for my wife.
No. Yeah, that's it. That's all I got. We're gonna try to do a new thing. We're gonna try to do a new thing because we're always trying to improve the podcast, which is when we close out the podcast, we give you the topic for the next show.
We're working on it.
I mean, like what a concept. So we're innovative over here. Next week or in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Yeah, the topic is this: a conversation with my inner child, how to approach healing childhood wounds. It will introduce the topic of the why behind its importance. So we're going to talk about maybe there's something in your life that happened to you when you were a little kid, big, small, that has kind of shaped kind of what you strive for, what you try to make happen, or what you struggle with. And we want to go back and get you to ponder and to think about, and then give you some renew, move, and find steps to how to not only think about what it could be, but move away from it.
100%.
Okay.
I'm excited.
All right.
Excited.
Perfect. Be a good one. So,
yeah.
Like always, we don't really request this, but we're going to start because we're always trying to improve. If you could like and share this video, send it to someone. Also, we stream on all podcast platforms. Anywhere podcasts are streamed. We're there.
Love it. Love it.
Also on YouTube and Facebook, obviously. So Spotify, iTunes, all that stuff. If you could share it, like it, send it to some people just to kind of get more people to watch and to see what we believe God has placed upon our heart to change lives. Anything else? Any final thoughts? So inner child conversation in 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
Other than that, man, I love this time of year. Hunting, football, Christmas, everything. My birthday, December 28th.
Weather. No humidity.
December 28th, I take Venmo, cash, check.
All right. So intentionality.
Don't forget, there's 2 times to be great: when you feel like it and when you don't. And like always, renew, move, and find.
Amen.
Peace out. We love you.
All right. Peace.
I had to realize what's inside of me. For all of the people that lied to me. For all of the people that said I would fall off. Oh, boy, what a time to be alive. I wrote this for everyone, feel like they counted out. You need to look in the mirror and tell yourself it's time to be who I am now. Greatness.